What's up, y'all? It's your girl, Tanisha Johnson, aka TJ Self Care. I am super excited. This is our very first episode of Moments of Reflection. So, I just want to start off by saying today has been a day where I've really had to sit back, reflect, ask myself what's going on in my own life, try to reflect on my own needs. And so I said, you know what? That must be the topic that I'm supposed to talk about today. Anytime things get a little hectic in my life, I tell myself, you know what, Tanisha, it must be happening because that's the topic that you're supposed to talk about today. As you may or may not know, I am first, true to my heart, I am a writer. I am an associate clinical social worker. I've been in the field for 20 years. I am a certified life coach of about 4 years now. And I got into this field because I wanted to help people heal from codependency and people pleasing. So I know some of you may be new to listening to my podcast. Maybe you didn't listen to the episodes of Heal, Pray, Grow. And so I just wanted to make sure I take a little bit of time, kind of just catching you up and explaining to you, why I'm here, what's my purpose, et cetera, et cetera. So today I really want to give you some tools to help you heal from codependency and understand why struggling with codependency is something that you really need to reflect on and ask yourself, is it affecting my life? So right off top, I want to tell you that it is. Codependency and people pleasing pretty much is just you being vulnerable and transparent with yourself and saying that you acknowledge that your life is out of hand. And you acknowledge that there's parts of it that feel unmanageable, that you struggle with the boundary setting, and that you really don't have a clear vision of who you are outside of helping other people. So I know that I just said a mouthful. And it's easy for me to say because I've been doing this work for a long time. I've been doing my personal work for a long time. I've been helping people for a long time. So for me, it's kind of just like this ABC, this is what it is, this is what you need to do, and this is why it's going to be okay. And so I really want to take a moment just for us to ask ourselves, and for me to kind of break down, you ask yourself, what exactly makes healing difficult for you? Now, of course, I'm going to share some of my own reflections and some of my own gems to you, but I really want you to focus on why is it really difficult for me? So the number one thing I feel like that people come to me about all the time is the boundaries. We feel our lives are unmanageable. We feel like we are taking care of everybody except ourselves. I know some of this sounds familiar. And we're kind of like, what's going on in my life, right? For some of us, we even have to ask ourselves, do we even have a life outside of the grieving, outside of the codependency? And I hope that you know you do. You do have a life. But what you struggle with is inserting yourself in your own schedule and making yourself a priority. You do have a life. But I empathize and also recognize a lot of the reasons why you may question if you do. And boundary setting is definitely a big one. So the boundary setting is always sticky, and I give grace to everybody. When you are in those infant stages, I like to call them, of boundary setting, you will find yourself being very firm, being very, no, this is what it is. And parts of that is you still kind of learning and adjusting to what the boundaries look like for yourself. And I'm gonna be transparent. Some of that also is you still not setting boundaries. We do not have to be mean, aggressive, resentful in order to set boundaries and keep boundaries. Boundaries are for us, it's not for the other people. You know, in relationships, we don't give people rules on how to love us. We allow them to love us how they can and how they want to, and then we set the boundary with ourselves. Does this feel good for us? Does the way this person show up in my life feel like I have a connection, feel like I have love? And then you set your boundaries of how much time you want to spend with that person, and how intimate you want that relationship to be based on those boundaries and those concepts, right? And so when we reflect on boundary setting in that way, it really gives us space to recognize people are going to be people. It's not our job to try to change people. It's not our job to try to get people to, be there for us or love us a certain way. Our job is to be self-aware about what we need, to recognize when someone is struggling to show up for us in that manner, and then be ready to put action towards ourselves, not towards the other person, right? So it's like, say for example, if we have someone, in our life that we know, struggles to really be there for us, to nurture us, to listen to us when things are going on, and in the same breath, you also recognize that this person is fun, this person is outgoing, this person is someone that you really feel connected to, this person is somebody that when it's time to have a good time, they're always there to support you. My question for you, and what I want you to reflect on, is why would we not talk to that family member, that friend, that whoever, just because they don't necessarily know how to be an emotional, piece of our life or support for our life, when they have all these other attributes? We laugh with them. We have good times with them. We enjoy their company. We enjoy the fact that maybe they do all the planning. I am blessed. I have a circle of friends that I am not good at loosening up and having a good time because, my childhood was just so restricted with having to be responsible. And so I need that energy in my life. And God, the universe, whatever you believe in, I believe in God. God sent it to me, okay? So the idea of not engaging, right, with people that truly do provide quality and nurturing in a different way in our life, it almost doesn't make sense. But when we're hurt, right, and when we want love in a certain way, sometimes we make those very rigid rules and almost like regulations for our life. And it really impacts our healing journey because we begin to treat ourselves and other people with the same rigid standards that we grew up with, and those are things that we need to reflect on letting go. I have a coaching program and I have coaching services in general with my clients. And one thing that I always share is the only people that were supposed to learn our cues, learn how to nurture us, and learn how to support us were our parents. Those are the only people. Parents, and caregivers. And for many of us who struggle with the people pleasing and codependency, we didn't have that. We didn't have those parents that came to us when we had a bad day and rubbed our back or, told us everything was going to be okay, or we broke down certain scenarios about who said what and how it made us feel, and then they were able to support us. We didn't have parents like that. Which leads me to the first thing that we need to do when we begin to go on our healing journey is we need to do our grief work. We need to recognize and acknowledge that there's a gap there in our life. Because when we don't acknowledge the things that we wanted in our childhood, or I know for me it was a need, and for you too. The things that we needed, like in our childhood, that we didn't get, is going to prevent you from moving forward. You're not going to be able to truly walk on this journey of healing, being able to be self-aware, to hold compassion for yourself, to hold compassion for other people that are in your life, and really just be able to sit in the acceptance of your life. That is healing. And healing has been one of the hardest things and the most beautiful thing that I've ever decided to do in my life. And, on this journey of 9 years, which is crazy, right? Every time I say that, like 9 years? Like, yes, 9 years. On this 9-year healing journey that I've been on, the first 3-4 years probably were just like learning the grooves of what it looked like to put myself first. And we can always recognize it, When we first start our healing journey, and hopefully you're doing that grief work, the biggest thing that you find is you are not the center of your life. So it's like that awareness kicks in. Secondly, we find that not only are we not the center of our life, but we're taking care of all these people. Sometimes it's children, sometimes it's older parents, sometimes it's our spouse or significant other, sometimes it's friends, it's colleagues, it's everybody, right? And all of that is because of us. It's like we are the common denominator. The way we show up in people's lives as like rescue, savior, like I'm here. I love you, I hold space for you, and we get committed to them without necessarily committing to ourselves first. And I know I said a mouthful, and you probably like, Tanisha, what? Yes. This is real life. This is real life, what it looks like to heal, and it sucks. It does. It sucks to get that awareness, And listen, I'm not trying to change any mindset that you have. If it's beautiful for you, it's beautiful for me. But for me, when I first started it sucked. Self-awareness is like one of those things that you be really excited about experiencing it. And then when you experience it, you like your face be looking like a meme. You be looking like, what? I don't do that. Is this really my partner? Did I really marry this person? Why do I work here? These are my friends? Oh, that's what I look like? Wow. And it's just like this open door domino effect that happens. It's like you walk through one door and you recognize that first layer about yourself. And then you walk through another door and you see another layer. And it's like in the beginning, it's like a shock. Then it's like you kind of get used to the shock. Then all of a sudden, like as you go deeper within yourself, it's almost like being deep down, like in an ocean, like just exploring like all these gems. And when you get to that spot, that feels amazing. That self-awareness is good because it's like though the neurons in your head is usually, the social worker in me coming out, I guess, getting excited, but it does, right? It's like all those memories and everything just start circusing, almost like firecrackers, and it's like boom, 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 and it's all painting this beautiful picture of you, right? And that part is amazing. And within that part, we have processed our grief. We've processed the life that we have. We've accepted, too, the life that we have. And then we're trying to figure out, okay, what does this really mean to be in tune with self? Being in tune with self means that we have now made an obligation. This is no longer, you doing it because there's a problem. Most of the time when we come to therapists, coaches, spiritual counselors, all those people, which is great. I'm not knocking any of it. We need all of it, okay? But a lot of times when we first start this journey, it's because there's a problem, right? And fixing the problem becomes the drive that pushes us to keep going, right? And when we think there's no longer a problem, most of us are good. I have an 8-week coaching program, okay? It used to be 10 weeks. It's 8 weeks. In the 8-week coaching program, I have clients that complete my program. The problem is fixed. They have the new tools. They're using them. Things are good. Another conflict arises. All the tools that they learn with me go out the door, and then they're booking another session. And when I saw that pattern, I said to myself, Tanisha, there needs to be more conversation around how are we truly going to live a healed life and have an obligation to self. Like, how are we going to do that? And so my question for you, my reflection for you is, how do you plan to actually live a healed life? Now, that's something that looks different for all of us. That's something that I can't necessarily help you with. However, I do want you to start to use some of these tools that we're talking about today to reflect about it. How do you plan to set your boundaries? What are boundary setting going to look like for you? Who do you need to have conversations with about the new you? And how do you plan to do that in a way that's not demeaning, that's not, talking about their character, that's not, making that other person feel, unworthy or unvalued? How are you really going to do it so that the person feels seen and heard, you feel seen and heard, and there's no longer, right, this conflict or these feelings around whatever you have to talk to the person about? And I know I said a mouthful again, but this ultimately is truly what it looks like to heal and go through life and really try to figure out what's important to us and who we are, right? Another thing that that's really important when we start to heal is starting to understand that making mistakes, or making, decisions that necessarily, didn't turn out the way we thought they would is not a bad thing. We have to begin to give ourselves compassion and grace, and we're not going to be able to give other people compassion and grace if we don't first learn to give it to ourselves. And one of the reasons why, I like to really have these conversations is because I really, I mean, first off, I want you to know I care about you. That's number one. Like, and also, I really want you to have authentic, healthy relationships where you feel good about yourself and you feel like, you are showing up in your relationships, not from your wounded self, but from who you are right now. I mean, these type of things, really have to be reflected on, addressed, and then we got to come up with a game plan. We have to come up with a strategy of what is truly going to look like for us to walk in that light. What is it going to look like for you to be this new, authentic person that loves yourself, that's no longer setting boundaries, in a resentful way, that's truly, focusing on your own healing journey and acknowledging the grief and acknowledging the life that you wish and thought you were going to have, and then accepting the one that you do. What is your plan around that? And it's okay to say, Tanisha, I don't have one, or, I'm still trying to figure it out. That's what it's all about. But that's the obligation that I want you to consider making to yourself, because that's what healing is all about. Healing is about saying, I don't know how I'm going to do this. I don't know how I'm going to put myself first. But every single day, I'm going to get up. I'm going to acknowledge that I have needs. I'm going to acknowledge that maybe I'm too firm with people that I love, and I need to consider adjusting my tone, how I talk to people. I need to develop more levels of, self-compassion, so I can have compassion for other people that I'm talking to. I need to be able to be self-aware, to understand my triggers. Why am I being, upset or bewildered or frustrated by something that someone says or does? What's the expectation I have for this person? What's the need that I have from this person? And that's a very vulnerable state to be in, because, first off, we never want to accept that we have needs, but we do. Every single relationship, there's a need. I could run down, all my friendships with family, friends, significant others. I could run down this big old list, and I could tell you what the need is in every single relationship, okay? But that's what I want you to do for yourself. What is the need, right? If you have a sister, older sister, the need may be to get support, guidance, nurturing. If you, with your children, the need may be for them to feel supported and valued and nurtured. Therefore, you teach them early on, you have these conversations. You ask them, I love you. Mommy or daddy loves you. Do you feel loved? Now, of course, 3-4 years old, you're not going to get much back. But what you're doing is you're setting up this standard now where it's okay to talk about feelings, and that child learns that my feelings are important to my parents or to my caregivers, right? So it's like, that's the need that you now set up with your child. The need to know that I am a parent that shows up for my children, and they feel that. Or if it's a best friend, you may have a need to hang out, be able to talk, be able to exchange ways that, you're walking and living through life, and be able to communicate, your frustration or your anguish or your pain. All of these things are needs that are okay. But we first have to acknowledge that there was major needs that were not met. And that could be the hard part, and that could be the challenging part for many of us. So I hope, if nothing else, I have left you with some powerful gems and information that you can really reflect on and think about for yourself. Again, I am here to support you. You can go to tjselfcare.com. I have a free guide that teaches you how to heal from codependency. It's the 5-step living free. It's the living free 5-step guide to healing from people pleasing and codependency. How to step out of it and live a good life. I wrote it so long ago, y'all, that I've written so many things, as many of you know. I was sitting here like, what's the name of the free guide? So that is the name of the free guide. It will be in the link underneath this podcast episode. Please feel free to download it. Also, if you just need some information, some tips, you can find me on Instagram, YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook under TJ Self Care. I'm always dropping new videos, new threads, new information, and all of it will be helpful to you on your healing journey. So I want to thank you for joining me in our very first episode. I gotta do my little dance. Wait, hey. Okay, I'm done. But thank you so much for joining me on this very first episode of Moments of Reflection. And my moment of reflection today is acknowledging that I am truly living a life of acceptance. And it feels hard. It feels very triggering. And I'm going through it. And I feel good. I feel really good. So what is your moment of reflection based on what we talked about in this episode? Make sure you go ahead and put your little comments in this podcast episode so I can see them, and let me know your moment of reflection. Or if you like, hey Tanisha, I don't want everybody in the world to see my moment of reflection, but I definitely want to share it with you. I want you to email me at tanisha@tjselfcare.com and let me know what your moment of reflection was for today's episode. I look forward to talking to you soon, and have an amazing day. Bye.